Hello, everybody. Welcome. If it's Wednesday, it is Warhammer. I am here this week only with my co-host, Achroma, Angel of Wrath. How you doing, Tom?
Sorry, it's just me.
That's all right. You'll do, I guess. But we're glad to have all of you along for this. We didn't have anybody this week because I wasn't even necessarily sure that I was going to be able to be here. As you can tell, I am not in my normal location. I apologize if my video or audio is a slightly lower quality than normal. I'm on the road again, still on the tour here. This is my off day, my driving day. Put about 11 and a half, 12 hours of driving in a day, so that was pretty good.
Where are you headed? Where are you at now, and where are you headed to next?
I am currently somewhere in the heart of Mississippi. I don't know where exactly. Whatever exit had like a hotel on it that at the time when I needed to stop is where I am. Couldn't tell you. And I am going to Dallas to see Lonehammer.
Nice. So how many stops have you made so
far? 3. So I was in Jersey and saw Ant and from TSC, and Nick from Long Island Wargaming, and MC1 Gamer, Mitch. Then I went down to North Carolina and hung out with Matiram and Du Bois, so Michael and Skip, as well as obviously Alicia was there as well, his wife. And actually, we got Alicia to get the figs out and actually play a game. We played a game, so that was very nice. And I believe that I have now played her more times this year than Matiram has, so that's pretty nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then the next day I stayed in North Carolina, but a different part of North Carolina to hang out with Once Bitten, and he and I went to Atomic Empire and got to meet a lot of his crew, and that was a lot of fun.
Okay, let me ask you this: what are 3? And you have a minute each to answer this.
All right.
What are 3 standout moments over the last week of Warhammer that you've had? You get 1 minute for each moment.
3 standout moments, huh?
Yep, 3 standout moments. Something just absolutely ridiculous happened.
All right, I'm ready. I can do it. I can do it fast.
Do it.
Here we go.
Do it.
I had a unit of Bretonnian peasant archers fight to the last man. They made like many leadership 5 checks. They went down to the man. They refused to flee from panic, from combat. They were charged in the rear. They still stood. They couldn't be stopped. Finally, the last guy ran 12 inches. And I was like, yes, he's going to get away. There was a gyrocopter in his rear. And the gyrocopter rolled a freaking 12 to catch him. It was like north by northwest as like the plane comes in over. But I'd like to think that guy lived. I had a very nice moment where at the very start of a game, my playing Bretonnian, my knights were going to be in a very bad position that were going to be charged by like a terror-causing enemy, and I dropped namely a big soul grinder, like a 6-wound ridiculous demon model, and my peasants dropped a rock right on that dumb thing's head, and it failed its ward, and did 6 wounds, and blew that thing right back into the warp. That was a beautiful moment. It's all peasant related, it seems. And then a very nice moment, which was in one of the battle reports, which was Nagash and Cetra fighting when I was with Mitch, and Cetra didn't even get to swing. Nagash just walked up and hacked him down and killed him. I'll pick a 4th one, and that was, but then I'll just tease, and that was, there were some great Casket of Souls moments in the battle against Nick from Long Island Wargaming, and you'll see that in the battle reports. There you go.
Fantastic. Well, good.
Yeah. So what about you, Tom? Let's move on to some news and rumors, right? You've been able to keep up. I've been out of the loop largely, obviously, because I've been on the road. But we're in the thick of it now. It's coming.
We are. So this is from Darnock, who's a fairly reliable source on Warseer, and he's had a lot of what we've already kind of seen and been hinted at confirmed. Obviously, you guys know that the books did get pulled on the 6th from the official stores, and a bunch of Age of Sigmar flyers went up. There's a bunch of runes in the background, like faded runes in the background of that very simple flyer. And people on Warseer are hard at work trying to decipher code break what those runes mean.
Yeah, it's like the imitation game over here. I mean, we need to call in Benedict Cumberbatch on this. He would solve it up.
Clearly. What it does seem is that there's a single line that's repeated over and over in every one, and one of the words in there is clearly Sigmar. So, for whatever that's worth, not surprising for Age of Sigmar. So Darnok came in and shared that kind of Age of, he said, one of the things from his sources is that Age of Sigmar is kind of the thing. We're not looking at 3 systems coming. It's Age of Sigmar is this new system. And we'll initially have kind of like an introduction pamphlet skirmish with the box set that's coming in early July. And then a couple weeks later, supposedly, we're going to have a large book release that will kind of have the whole scale of the game. And supposedly, there's going to be get you buy lists, very akin to Ravening Hordes. And the transition from 5th to 6th edition is what it's been kind of likened to. This is supposedly a digital resource that's going to be available. And then supposedly new armies are going to have, or like new books are going to get released as fast as possible to kind of fill in the gaps or to replace kind of the Ravening Hordes transitionary document. So,
just if we can take a moment on that, because I think that one's really important. There's two things there I really want to dig in on. The first is this idea of Ravening Hordes. And like I was playing in the 5th to 6th transition, and I remember like having the Ravening Hordes thing, and it was awesome. Like I loved the Ravening Hordes thing. And so before this show today, I went and pulled the old PDF. And so a couple things I'll say about it. One, it is amazing how much wasted space there are in army books, because that is not a big document, and it contains like 15 armies, as well as rules for the game. Because you got to remember, between 5th and 6th, it was a completely changed way you made armies. Like, and the way you picked characters, like the nature of what characters were, how you chose them, just everything. It all switched up. Like, 5th edition had a very different system for battle standard bearers and all this sort of thing. Like, it was way different. And everything is in this one doc, right? And most of the time, it's just pointing back to base rules. Like it's saying this, like, because that was one of 6th was one of the first editions that really went hard into typification, like what, like the French vanilla within Magic the Gathering or vanilla terms, like first strike, what we think of as like fear and flying, and they all have, it's a very distinct set of rules. Not that those things didn't exist before, but they took it up to 11, right? And everything was in there, as well as all the special rules, all your points costs, every army, every unit. Everything was in there. So everybody doing everything they had in 5th, they still could use in this Ravening Hordes list. They still had access to. It had points on the new system. The stats were moved around. So the stats of what it was before wasn't what it necessarily was in Ravening Hordes. Everything was readjusted. Everything was recosted. Everything got its new special rules. Like the Giant had its whole thing packed into this little paragraph.
Wow.
All the races' unique magic items were there in the Ravening Hordes thing, the big list of unique magic items. Like in these, it's the whole army book is 2, maybe 3 pages, right? Because that's all it takes. When you cut out all the junk, that's what this is. It's like stat block, some special rules, next. Stat block, some special rules, next. You're getting like 4 units, 5 units to a page, right?
Wow.
So, I mean, that should really tell you, like, that 80-page army book, not that it's not full of maybe other valuable stuff. I'm sure plenty of people like the fluff and like that, but mechanically, it's a 3-page document.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially if that's what we're seeing. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, but I think that it's a really, if that is the shape of things to come, I mean, that leads into the last point that Darnok had, which was all army books until now will become obsolete with the new Age of Sigmar version of Warhammer. And so what that means, if that is true, is that, like, the books that you have, like, it's not that, we had said that, current armies are going to be viable in the next edition. It's not current army books are going to be viable in the next edition. Right. It's the models themselves. It's the armies themselves that are viable, not the actual books. That means like your end time books and all the rules and all that stuff that came out. That's not going to be there.
Yeah, entirely possible. Like the end times ones form a question in my mind, like how they'll work. I don't know. But you're absolutely right, because like there could still be points back to them in some way. Like you could still say like Undead Legions could just be a thing that shows up in like this Ravening Hordes-esque thing, right? So it's still pointing back to it. But yeah, exactly. I mean, like when sixth came out, there's no like right now in eighth edition. If you're playing Bretonia, you're using your sixth edition version of your book, right? Because that book has just remained available in every edition. That wasn't the case with fifth to sixth. When sixth dropped, throw out all your old army books. They're toilet paper now. I mean, you can keep them for the fluff and read them, and I still do because hashtag not my Bretonia. But like that's the only purpose of them. Like all the rules were in this one PDF for Ravening Hordes. That's it. That's your Bible. And everything was usable. There was no model that was cut out, right? That was it's what you see. Like every army could be used, but it wasn't necessarily the same rules as what you had before, right? Things were completely rebalanced, recosted, changed, different special rules, as I said before. So, but you didn't lose a single thing.
Right.
So
yeah, it's fascinating. And I'm excited for that and I'm terrified for it. So the other rumor that we had come down the line was that 8th edition, so this is from Maelstrom and Marcus Belli, I think, or something. But he said that, and a lot of what he did was he confirmed what Darnock had said, but he said, 8th edition as we know it is dead. We will have this, whatever this transitionary Ravening Horde style document is going to bring the old armies into the new. But the game functionally as it will no longer exist. The new army rules will come in the big book later in July, and then the next starter then comes in September. Lots of new models in between. The army book, the next army book will come in autumn, and it'll be Sigmarines and the Chaos, supposedly. Even though that doesn't make much sense, especially if the release in July is
that.
Yeah. And then again, Ravening. He reaffirmed the Ravening Hordes. No faction disappears. They get new names, new aesthetics. Some legendary heroes will be around to connect both games, which is not surprising. And then finally, in the box that's coming out in July, he said that the pamphlet there'll be a pamphlet in there for Skirmish, which is really light on rules. It's something that Harry had confirmed as well on Warseer. And then later in July will be the massive rules book. And the initial box, again, was Humans vs. Khorne, which had been confirmed previously.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the thing about several of the rumors that I did manage to catch up on were pointing toward really quick releases, right? Like it's going to rain. The idea being 6 weeks of hard releases, short break for probably a 3-week 40K, and then boom, even just another long period of fantasy releases, right? So just a lot. And I'm excited for that. I want to see it rain, right? I really want to why not? Because, Skaven and AZ put up a video in the response to the topic of the week talking about the changeover to 8th and how when people were frustrated, and wanted, okay, it's this new edition. I'm not sure if I like it. I don't know what my army really looks like, whatever. I'm still using this old book. We're not really playing with 8th edition rules because there were some things that really did change the way the game played to a significant degree. And nothing happened. Months and months went by and you got one book, 2 books. And, it was really 2 years before you had any kind of significant army book releases. That's a long time. And everybody who was frustrated, that's just fuel on the fire for them to just drop the hobby like a habit, right? Like a bad habit. Whereas I think if it rains, that's exciting for new people because they know this is a good time to get in. They're like, oh, hey, everybody's starting over. Now's the great time, right? This is you're on fairly equal footing. You have to buy models that they don't have to because they can still use their old stuff, but it's it's new for everybody, right? And at the same time, it keeps hopefully more people interested in staying in. Right, you don't get that long period because I don't that's a crappy way. The way they were doing previous releases, I'm just not a fan. If you were a Wood Elf player, I like whether you hate or like your book, it is different. But it sucks that you had to wait 4.5 years for it, right? I mean, that's the reality of the thing. That's not fun.
Yeah, and then a year and a half later, it's obsoleted.
Right? Yeah. Poor Wood Elves. I mean, maybe. I don't know that anybody's really. I'm sure there are people who will miss it. I'll say it that way. But I don't think the community as a whole is super injured on that one. Whatever.
It's really a shame given the how nice their treatment models are, especially given how terrible the rules are.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, that'll connect to what we're going to talk about later, but I think you're hitting exactly on the thing. One of the things I said to OB when I was talking to him, and we were just kind of talking about 9th edition, and I said, this is the greatest time ever. Nothing will ever be as good as this. Okay? Seriously. Because this is Christmas Eve. It is. Like, when you see wrapped boxes under the tree, just waiting. Like, maybe there's a little choo-choo train going around. There's a log on the fire. You've got a cup of warm cocoa or a beer or whatever you're drinking there. And what's in those boxes could be anything.
Hopefully not shit.
Yeah, all your dreams could come true. You don't know. At this point, it's all wrapped up and perfect. And when you tear off that wrapping, what's going to be contained is everything you told Santa that you had hoped and dreamed for and silently written on your list and mailed off to the North Pole or Nottingham, wherever you happen to send it. This is the same thing. This is great. Like, don't feel fear. Be excited. This is Christmas Eve. Might you get let down when you open up the boxes and you get a bunch of socks? Sure. Like, there's going to be some people who get socks. But, whatever. That's fine. It's still fun to be excited. Can't take that away. So, I mean, seriously, like, even if you're disappointed with the outcome, you still got the positive excitement now. So I say drain the marrow from the bone of the Christmas Eve that we're currently in with Warhammer. That's my attitude. This is the best. I don't know if I ever want 9th to come out. We should just do this forever. Then it'll always be anything. It's like the box on Let's Make a Deal. What's in the box? Who knows?
Well, we'll always have Marienburg.
Right, exactly. Yes, we'll always have Marienburg. So was there? I mean, that's was there anything else we wanted to say on rumors? I mean, we didn't. Nothing too hard. No rule stuff yet. I'm very excited for the Ravening Hordes thing. I really am. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to say on that when you and I talked earlier. For people who are a fan of like balance as a thing, as a concept, which I think all Warhammer players are somewhat concerned with it, but like how much and where you rate it. Like, it's one of your priorities, but there could be like nothing above it or 9 things above it, right? Like, sure. So if you're a fan of it at all, Ravening Hordes was a great time to be alive if you care about balance. Because the reality is every army was really pretty balanced because they were all written together at the same time on the new rules, costed, like the stats were all reset at the same time. The points were all reset at the same time. The special rules were all applied at the same time. There was no power creep or design space exploration happening, anything like that. It was all done together.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the most, is this like this little window of the most balanced period ever. So, hey, you got that to look forward to, too.
It's true. And there could be really some big winners and some big losers in the midst of this.
Yes.
Do you want to, who do you think is going to be the big winner?
Well, let's save that for the actual thing.
Okay.
I have a couple guesses, but let's save that for our feature segment because that's what we're going to talk to. That'll be a good break, and we'll pick up with that in a few minutes.
Okay.
But let's take a short break and talk about hobby time, as I know you finally are making some progress, and I don't want to rob you of talking about it.
I don't have. I mean, I've gotten everything base coded finally. That's a really good feeling of these stupid orcs, like 50-some with miscellaneous shamans and everything else that goes in the unit filler, and then I've started washing today, which is fantastic. Hopefully by the end of the week I'll have this unit of 50 done. So that's what I'm anticipating. I think I'm going to transition next. I had talked last week about I picked up a bunch of materials for my Mordheim board, and so I'm going to be putting together initially 4, but I have all the stuff for 8 2x2 panels. So I'm basically going to make a Realms of Battle style board of Mordheim and a canal-filled streets of Mordheim. So like canals and streets and then places for buildings. And then I'm also going to have some transition from like swampy, icky, nasty, like edge of city into the actual city proper. So
yeah. With the idea that it's like modular, you can put the 2 feet, all the different 2 foots kind of in different compositions. The buildings will be removable, so you can, with that, you can have a lot of different stuff. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, so I'm going to start that. I'm going to do 4 panels initially. I've kind of mapped those out. So and then I'm gonna have I'll have like the canals are the big point because you can't actually move where the canals are, and so I'm trying to be very strategic about what that looks like, and then in addition to that, like crossing those areas is going to be important, but I am going to have movable bridges that I'll be able to move around at different spots on the board. So even when you're placing terrain, you can place bridges in different areas to create strategic choke points and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's also not going to be static. So I'll start with 4 of those, and I'm probably going to knock those out, and then I'll probably do the other 4 later after I have at least a functional board. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now.
All right, I like it. I like it. What I'm working on is driving. It's killing me. This is going to be like my least productive month in ever. Like, it's
you've seen
what's that?
I would say you've seen a bunch of hobby stores, a bunch of game stores. Have you picked up any new models or anything?
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, okay, that's a good question. Yes, I've gotten a couple fun things. When I was up at Toggett's, there was like a Kislev Ice Queen that they had there, like the old. She had the 5th or 6th edition. I don't know. Probably 5th. Yeah.
Yep.
And I saw that and I was like, yoink. Yeah. How did that gem sit on the shelf for years? That's just somebody not looking. She's beautiful. So she's becoming either like a Bretonnian lord or a prophetess or something like that, like immediately.
Yeah, I have her
stumbled into all the Kislev models.
I have her sitting on my elf build box. Yeah, it's a beautiful model, and it's funny that you can still find those. Like I have a game store here that has a wall of old, like 5th edition, 6th edition models that I go and pick stuff from, and she was sitting on that wall. So
yeah, that's just missed opportunities. People aren't seeing the goodness there. That's crazy. That's crazy talent. Absolutely be all over that. Also, when I was at Atomic Empire, which was an amazing game store, like if you're ever in North Carolina in like Raleigh area, you should absolutely go to Atomic Empire. It was amazing. Probably the best game store I've ever been in my life. And first of all, it's like a warehouse. It's so big, and there's just all this room and what was even more impressive is all the like shelves were all on like big rolling racks. So when they need to run like a really huge tournament, they can just literally roll everything right out and use this entire space. And I mean, it's bigger than like a basketball court. I mean, it's just giant in there.
Wow.
And they have like beer on tap if you're a beer drinker. So that's a nice thing. Yeah, I got some stuff there, quite a bit of stuff I'm very excited about. I picked up like they had the Vallejo liquid gold range, the alcohol-based golds. And so I was like, scoop all of those right in. Like, I will be taking all of these. Thank you very much. So I got that. That was cool. Yeah, I picked up some Mantic models because they had the full Mantic line there. So I pulled up some of the Sisterhood chicks that have flails. I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I don't care either. I think they're just awesome. I like chicks with flails. This is the Sigmar at some point.
As a side note, I should have mentioned this when we were talking about rumors and news and stuff like that. For those of you guys that don't know, Mantic, obviously this is a Warhammer podcast, but this is also about miniatures and Warhammer miniatures and miniatures we use for Warhammer. Mantic's new 2nd edition is coming out next month, and they're shipping the first round, hypothetically, shipping the first round of their Kickstarter models next month, which is going to be exciting for anybody that's ordered. And if you're still wanting models, in addition to the glut that is clearly going to be on eBay from Warhammer, we'll talk about that at the end of the show.
Sure.
But there should be a bunch of Mantic, some of the Mantic's lines probably going up on eBay, I would anticipate, because of everything shipping out next month. But more importantly than that, they've also released a bunch of experimental lists, the first of their like transfer lists for those that are wanting to try out their rules with Warhammer armies. And so they've released a Skaven list, and they've released a halfling list. So I think it's a Dogs of War list.
Yeah, for all those people who have halfling armies sitting around. For all those people who spent $1,500 building a halfling army out of the various and disparate metal halflings that have ever been made. And don't get me wrong, I support that. Like, nothing could make me happier than 9th edition randomly include, like, the halflings of the Moot, who were never destroyed in the end times. I would like to point that out. They were the last province of the empire that held out. So, there you go.
They are totally coming back. That's happening.
Absolutely. As we pointed out back on the show, the halflings made it back okay. They made it back to Archaon's, or not Archaon's, I'm sorry. They made it back to Archon's, stronghold. Yeah. Yep. I would like to think that they escaped into the New World. That's all I'm saying. They went through the wormhole.
So do you think that Archon's fortress is manned by halflings, or at least halfling skeletons?
I would like to think so, yeah. Hopefully live halflings living with undead halflings. They formed, it's like the undead halflings and the regular halflings are friends, and the regular halflings don't mind the undead halflings because they don't eat. So it doesn't take up any of their food. More food for them. It's really
perfect. Yeah, they could have the undead halflings do the farming, so they don't have to work.
Yeah, it's all win-win. I think the halflings will take to necromancy right away. That's just gonna happen. So I'll be excited to get back and try those. I mean, I'll be lucky, and unfortunately, there's a giant model sitting on my desk that Chimerian Terrorgeist, and he's gonna take days to finish when I get back. So I'll be lucky if I get 2 things done this month, just because of everything on the plate. But hey, whatever, that's fine. We'll get something done. Never a month with nothing. That's the goal.
You will likely have a glut of models in the coming months.
That's true. You're gonna be a lot on the plate. Lot on the plate. That's what I'm hoping. I want to have a problem. That's what I want. I want my challenge to be, how am I going to paint all these new amazing Warhammer figs that came out that I must buy? I don't see an issue with that. That's a great problem to have. I'll take it. Hey, and I can always use those crazy sisters chicks if there's a good holy army option. They can fit right in there.
Let me just say, I am waiting on those models. He's talking about the Raging Heroes models, for those of you guys that don't know what he's talking about. They just released some of the final 3D prints of one of the Virgin Oracles here, and it is outlandishly beautiful.
Yeah, I can't get those toughest girls. I cannot get the fulfillment of that Kickstarter fast enough. It needs to be tomorrow. Seriously, I don't care that I'm on the road. It just needs. I need to come home and find that giant box waiting for me, and then just go into my cave and just not come out for weeks until that army is painted. Absolutely. All right. So shall we move on to our feature segment for the evening?
Absolutely.
All right. Very good. Very quickly, I will mention that John Crayer's watching, and John said the Christmas analogy doesn't bode well for him, as he's one of those people who has bad Christmas associations. That being said, the anticipation stemming from the delivery of the ninth is knife-cuttingly thick. Yes. I think
John, don't worry. Games Workshop might not let you down.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Just think. This could be a good Christmas, or it could just make it all worse. That's fine. Either way. 50-50. It's all right. Well, we're gonna be positive up until we can't anymore. That's what I'll say. That is my promise to the community at large and all of our viewers. We will be positive until we can't be. Speaking of that, our feature segment tonight, with the idea that Ravening Hordes is going to be a thing, something like Ravening Hordes, where we are going to have this big list of sort of all units. So conceptually, there's got to be some kind of organization for those. So for the moment, I don't care if they're factions or armies or whatever. It doesn't matter any, right? There's going to be some organizational structure to these things. So for the moment, we're going to talk about them in terms of the existing armies just for simplicity's sake, because that's how they're divided now. Though we understand that might not be the way they're divided then, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through the armies, because as I said, in that transition between 5th and 6th, you look at it, points costs radically changed. Stat lines changed. Special rules changed, right? Everything. The model was there. That was it. You still had the model, but that model was, other than in name only, could have been completely different. So what we thought would be fun tonight is to deep dive, go through every army, and say, what's our hit list of changes we would like to see? So where this is going to go, we're going to have to be quick, because we're going to do all the armies. And we're just going to, we're not going to deep dive on every unit and say this thing should be adjusted by 1 point, and no. We're going to hit the high levels, the low-hanging fruits. All right, we're picking those ripened pears. I'm in the South, and I saw a lot of peaches stuff. Maybe the very ripest peaches, right out that are right there, just juicy and ready to be picked. So, Tom, are you ready? Are you prepared?
I'm ready. I can't say that I'm prepared.
Well, fair enough. Let's begin. All right. And by the way, we would love to see, this is a thing that we definitely want to see your feedback on. People out there watching, we would love to see feedback. Assuming that everything can be rebalanced, points, stats, special rules, whatever. What's your low-hanging fruit for an army, for armies? By all means, put it in the comments, throw it in there, share it with us. We want to know. Because, as I said, it's Christmas evening. Anything could be in those boxes. All right. So let's start with our we'll go alphabetically just because I'm not creative. So Beastmen, what's your low hanging fruit, Tom?
Jabberslide.
Okay, just what gets better somehow.
Yeah, like and I would say that as we move through the armies, I think that this is going to be the real possibility is that like those units that we have universally mocked. Can suddenly like come out swinging big. I think that we're going to see a proliferation of uniform abilities, kind of those vanilla first strike style abilities, where it'll just be like a bunch of tags rather than the paragraphs. And I think that in the rebalancing, we might see some really big wins for some of the units. And like the Jabberslide is one of those that I think that the Gorgon. I mean, all of the big stuff from Beastmen.
Yeah, well, like, I totally agree. And like, yes, so Gorgon, give it something like, don't give it, I don't want to see it have any defense. Let's keep it defenseless. But let's just make the thing even scarier and crack it down 125 points. There's my easy grab. So like, add some other offensive special rule. I don't know, maybe give it like a devastating charges rule or something like that. And crack it down to like 150 points. There you go. But I think Beastmen stand to win a lot. Because look, there's like 6 crappy monsters in their rare section. There's like 6 crappy things in their rare section. One of those has got to get better, right? Like, I mean, it's almost got to happen. Yeah. Like, when you're at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up, right? Like, if anything is rebalanced and made better, you're great. So I'm just saying, like, 1 or 2 of those monsters has got to come out the other side of this being awesome. So, like, yeah, I want to see Gorgon and Jabberslide. I want to see the Jabberslide actually, like, do something. Preferably, I'd like to see it keep its weird special rule, but make it more like a Terrorgeist, where it doesn't stop ITP and it's like 2d6 plus some number, right? Instead of just 2d6. That alone, there you go. Good, cool, done. I don't think anybody's complaining about the quality of Terrorgeists. So, you know, something like that.
Certainly. Interestingly, a bunch of those models are out of stock in the UK right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the US, but in the UK.
Right. All right. Let's move on. Obviously. All right. We know who's next. Berto Nia.
Well, I'm going to let you weigh in on this first because you know the army.
Sure. Don't take away the heroic killing blow, Lord. That's number 1. Keep that virtue in existence. Don't lose that.
Do you really think things like virtues are going to make it into the new list?
They easily could. They did in the old thing. Like, stuff like that, they did in the Ravening Hordes. All the special rules and stuff like that, army-wide special rules, were all in there. So there's no reason they couldn't here. I honestly, just, like, if we're just talking, like, the problem with Berto Nia is it's never getting more support, right? And I don't know that I really want anything in Berto Nia changed that much. I mean, maybe make Peg Knights a little better, like a little more actually able to kill something, because they're often pretty rubber lancy.
Do you think that
I'd love to see their attacks moved up to 2 base for the Knight itself, which I don't think is too beyond the pale.
Do you think that the actual raw lance rules that kind of is what makes Berto Nia Knights Berto Nia Knights? Do you think that would take a hit?
It could. I think that's highly dependent on the rules around the edition, right? Like, it's two other edition rules dependent. If the way that the other edition rules and movement and stuff like that just doesn't work like that, then yes. Now, I think they will endeavor to have that represented in some way. Like, there hasn't been an edition of Bretonia, basically, that didn't have that lance formation in some fashion, but it wasn't always the column that it is now. It used to be a weird triangle. So, I mean, it can clearly take different forms. I'm fine with it working differently as long as it's still effective and gets at the same idea.
Yeah, and obviously I think that, like, and the reason why I ask that is because it's so dependent upon units and unit construction and unit size, and especially if this game is functioning at a low unit count, at least initially, like a low model count. Like, suddenly, like, that changes potentially what even design space they're playing in.
Sure. Well, to be fair, 5th edition Bretonian Knights were lances of 6 models. So, I mean, doesn't always take a lot. If there's less guys on the other side to be killed, you don't need as many knights to go kill them, right? Like, I mean, if the lance is truly effective at what it's doing. But honestly, it's good. Like, if we're not talking about adding new things here. We're only talking about what exists, right? And so, as it exists, I don't know. I like most of the army as it exists. Oh, there you go. No, I've got one. I have one. I'm sorry, and I can't believe I forgot it. I would kick myself if I got through this without saying it. Questing Knights. There you go. Questing Knights. Fix them somehow. Cheaper points cost. You let them get a 2-up. Give them some other benefit to balance it out. I will accept any of these things. They're beautiful models. Some of the most beautiful knights that GW ever made. Their sculpts are absolutely crushingly beautiful. And I would love to use them for something other than paladins, which is how I use them now. I'd love it if you could actually have a unit of them that was valuable at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I will accept many options for them. And just better questing knights would be a good thing.
Sure.
All right, next up. Demons of Chaos. All right. What's your want on demons?
Better models.
What specifically do you want to see replaced out of demons?
Their unclean one, like the greater unclean one and the keeper of secrets.
Gotcha.
I just hate them beyond the pale. Like, they're just so terrible.
You mean the actual base ones, not like the Forge World versions and alternatives and stuff?
Yeah, I love the Forge World versions. The Forge World versions are fantastic. They literally look like Warhammer Online, the animations from that game.
Yeah.
But the ones from Games Workshop are just horrendous. But I mean, I say that jokingly. I mean, from a rules standpoint, I don't know demons well enough to know what should be brought up. But
what should be brought down?
Right.
We're going to talk some in these armies. Kick Beasts of Nurgle in the teeth. That's an easy one. Like, they're just ridiculously too good. Kick them in the teeth. They don't need to suck. They just need to be what they are, like a reasonable choice. Like, rein those bad boys in. That would be a nice first step. I would like to see, I would say probably there's a couple different individual, I would love to see Bloodletters actually either get better or be cheaper or, be worth their points cost. They're paying a 7th edition tax right now still because they were so good in the previous edition. And so they upped their points to the most expensive of the core demons, and they are not worth it. They're terrible. I mean, that's the reality. They are probably the actual worst core choice. Just because, obviously pinkies are statistically the worst, but pinkies aren't there to fight. They're there to cast, Tzeentch magic and blue fire, pink fire, final whatever your blah 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 Tzeentch magic your enemy down, right?
The Fiend of Slaanesh was another just terrible model.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty bad. But I mean, on the whole, I think that the demons are in a pretty nice place overall. I don't have a problem with them, other than beasts and stuff like that. I would love, honestly. Here's a crazy thing you could do. I don't know if I would want to see this, but here's a nutso idea. Go back to their ward save go back to their ward save being invalidated by magic. That's how their ward saves worked for previously, where they had a 5-up ward, but magic cut right through it, kind of like how magic affects ethereals, and just make them commensurately cheaper. Like, I'm not saying like hugely. I'm not asking them to be Skaven slaves over here, but just knock them down a little, or give them different abilities or something like that. Like, so they don't always have the 5-up ward. They have to be afraid of people with magic weapons. That would also make magic weapons increase in value, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's a crazy idea. I don't know. It would also make things like regeneration on your demons far more valuable, right? Because that's not getting invalidated by a magic weapon. So it starts this big rock, scissors, paper thing, which makes for interesting tactical play. You're trying to choose your matchups and stuff. That's good stuff. All right. Next up, the Dark Elves. And Nicholas Belaird had a comment here. He said, make his Corsairs and Fleetmaster worthwhile.
Amen. I don't know. I really like Corsairs, so I don't know that I agree with that. I field Corsairs over other blocks of infantry all the time. That said, I agree. Yeah.
The problem with like saying fixed Dark Riders or fixed Brolocks is that they could be they could keep the same rules themselves, but if the rules of fast cavalry changed, dramatically, they could suddenly be much lower value, right? If they couldn't easily run around, if they were like automatically march blocked or something like old editions, like their rules could change under them that would dramatically decrease their value.
Spellcasting. If spellcasting rules changed.
Right. Yep.
That would kick them in the teeth because I mean, there's still 4-up ward cav that have multiple poisoned attacks.
Right.
I fully acknowledge that, but at the same time, like I don't like that's not what is turning games around. It's them like going willy nilly, dropping doom bolts and debuffing things like that. Right. That's when I've seen them be most effective.
And being completely out of charge arcs by just being able to snake 18 inches anytime they want, any kind of going little 1-ups and just ride the snake right behind out of arcs of sight and constantly doing that.
Yep.
If that kind of stuff got knocked out from under them, they couldn't do their buffs as effective or debuffs and magic damage as effectively, and they couldn't get out of the way as effectively, and you could more easily catch them. Their value would be dropping like a rock, right, automatically. So I don't know that they necessarily need kicked. That's my thought. I would say, pending how fast cav works, Brolocks would need to be adjusted in some way, right?
Certainly. I mean, I would say that I would love to see more reasons to put things like Blood Rack Shrines on the table.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's see that Blood Rack Shrine get sweet. Or the Medusa, the standalone Medusa. I'd love to see her get awesome and be a fun monster. She's like one of the more beautiful models they've ever made. She's so cool. And she's just garbage. Like, it's a real shame. But yeah, both her alone and her on the shrine, the Blood Rack Shrine, both. I'm totally in agreement there. I don't know what you do with them to make them better. Maybe make them have interesting effects on the unit around them, or units in combat with them that are a little stronger. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay with that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think there are a lot of possibilities. They just need to. Yeah, and again, the Black Arc Fleet Master, as kind of was mentioned, like, man, he is so terrible. Like, there's just no getting around that.
Sure.
And I would even say, like, the Assassins. Right now, like, you just don't see a lot of people running Assassins because it's kind of it's a high point investment and it's a risky proposition, and all the different penalties that come with Assassins. And so I think that would be a neat thing for them to kind of reinvigorate that for both the Dark Elves and the other races that have similar setups.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, Step Up hurt them, right? Because they pop out and they're like, ha! And maybe they kill the character, but if they don't, then it's like or kill a bunch of rank and file. But either way, what happens then is if they don't absolutely obliterate, it's like a bunch of halberdiers just hack them down because they're dumb T3 elves with no protection.
Yep.
Okay. So that's good. Next up, dwarves. Again, only existing units. What do you want to see changed out of dwarves? I'll tell you. Make that anvil work more like it did before, but not exactly. Let it get them more mobile. I don't need it to be shooting them across the board like it used to, where it's like suddenly they're just in your face and they're the fastest army. That's a bit silly. But let's let it get them moving. When they start ringing the hammer down, let's see some dwarves get to stepping. Right? I think that'd be awesome. So something like the old movement rule of the end. That'd be great.
With that, I would say that like what I'm most fearful right now for 9th edition is the removal of siege, and I think that will be a tragic mistake if dwarves cannot field a gunline style army, like a siege style army, because that seems like it's so much in the character of who they are as a race. And I'm not talking about like how play style. I'm talking about like the lore in the heart of who the dwarves are.
Sure. I mean, they're never going to lose that. They and the Empire are the two races that have literally had cannons in everything they've ever done. I mean, at least going back to 4th edition, I can't attest to 1st, 2nd, 3rd. But as far as I know, those things existed. So somebody who has played since the 80s can correct me if I'm wrong, and please do. But I know at least since 4th edition, they are the two armies that really had cannons. And I don't think that would go away. And at any rate, if one of our underlying assumptions here is that everything that exists now will exist in this Ravening Hordes PDF, because all we have to go off of is what happened before, and everything there transitioned over. Case in point, when I was looking at the Empire, it had both the Empire Battle Wagon and the Halfling Hot Pot in the Ravening Hordes list, and I was like, yeah, that Halfling Hot Pot, strength 3 stone thrower with no armor saves, delicious melty soup, so good. Let's bring that back. I want to see that model get made. But I mean, as far as dwarves go, I get them moving. Like, fix the anvil. I think there's a thing.
Yep.
But as far as like their stats and stuff like that, they're a solid army. I don't know that I have that much I would want to change with them. Other than if you allow shorten up the organ gun's range to 24 inches. So they actually have to like. It's a very small thing, but it makes them want to be out there just a little more. With 30 inches, it's too easy for them to sit off the line. Like, just give some cross incentives. Let them move a little easier and shorten the range of some of that artillery, like the organ gun. And suddenly you'll see a lot more dwarves moving around the board.
Yeah.
All right. High elves.
Oh god, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Probably change always strikes first.
Well, that would have been true for dark elves too. All the elves are going to absorb that to do that. Okay.
Right.
Just give the rerolls.
Yeah, get rid of the rerolls. Like, I hate even saying that. And I would even say like potentially bring back the charging gives always strikes first. And if multiple units have always strikes first, then you compare initiatives.
Yeah, or you could just have a Simo phase of like everybody who's ASF just goes at once, right? Like you all hack each other apart because you're all the Flash. You're all superheroes just punching each other before the other units that are around you even know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was say, and the other thing, like if we're just talking about other units, like I would like to be compelled, have more reasons to drop some elven chariots on the table, flying or non-flying. I look at all my elven chariots and I'm like, man, I'd love to put you on the table. It'd be so great.
Agree. Let's see that. I want to see that lion chariot of Trace get cheaper and just like make it just a little bit cheaper. Doesn't have to be a lot. What is it right now? Like 135, 150?
I think it's 135 or 120.
Okay.
130 maybe.
Whatever.
That shows you how often that I'm actually running it.
Sure. Bring it down 10, 20 points. Let's give it like a little special rule that makes it kind of exciting. I don't know what that is. Something neat. Something neat from the new edition. And let's have that thing roam around the board and just maul things. I think that sounds awesome. I like that.
Maybe higher impact hits. Because right now it's just default. It doesn't have like sides. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Better. Yeah. Some more impact hits. That'd be cool. That chariot model is so awesome. Who doesn't love lion chariots? They're chariots pulled by lions. It's ridiculous. That should be on the table every time. So make it better. I'd like to see your Frost Phoenix be not as good.
I disagree. No. It is.
If I was going to make any change with him, it would just be make him strength and he's like strength and toughness 6 right now, right?
He is.
Make him strength and toughness 5. Other than that, he stays exactly the same, and I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the flame is strength and toughness 5.
Yes, he should be the same style. I understand. Like every other model, when they portray both the young version of a thing and the old version of a thing, the old version of the thing actually ends up sucking more because it gets like like it might be better overall, but it gets like less attacks and it gets slower and generally kind of worse. But like with Treeman and Stegodons have this to some degree in a couple stats. No, Phoenixes just consistently get better. They're like old ninja masters in 1970s martial arts movies, right? Like the 90-year-old guy is the scariest guy in the room.
120 on the Lion Chariots.
120, sure. Make them like 105. There you go. That's what I say.
Deal.
Sure. Let's get them on the table, whatever it takes. And yeah, crack that Frosty down to strength and toughness 5.
Yeah.
He still 6s to be wounded by strength 3 crap, right? But it just makes it easier for a lot of other troops that are strength 4 to actually stand a chance to kill him. Oh, nice. Jeffrey Egon said the Halfling Hot Pot is still for sale on the GW site. That's awesome. What? I have mine still.
Where on the GW site?
Yeah, that's you need to post a link to that, Jeffrey. We want to see the Halfling Hot Pot for sale because that's beautiful. I think like if for some reason, well, let's just move to the next army because it's going to come up. I'll just connect this right up.
Well, we're going to run out of time. We're not halfway done. We have 10 minutes.
All right, let's keep moving. Go fast. Lizardmen.
More dinosaurs. No. More reason to put big stuff on the table. Like, I don't know. I just, yeah.
Troglodon. Make its 5/6 effect all the time or something like that. I'd like to see a little more regen on the monsters, but like weaker regen. 5 up.
They're lizards.
Monsters. Yeah, they're lizards. And they're all about like spawning and magical hoobajoob crap. Why not? And I would like to see Saurus be compelling in some way, and that means I would like them to have some option to take a weapon choice besides like spear or hand weapon, unless those are really good in the next edition. Like we're kind of operating under assumptions here. Saurus get better by having a different weapon choice that's valuable because their 2 weapon choices right now suck.
Yep.
Easy. What about the ogres?
I don't know a lot about the ogres.
Make that cannon not as good. That's step 1. That cannon is too good.
Is it the Scrabble launcher?
No.
The lead belcher.
No, that's the name of their little shooting guys.
Or the iron blaster.
There you go. Now you got it. And really all I need, like all I would want to see is just get rid of that misfire thing. That's all. Like their ability to reroll the misfire thing. It's such an cannons are already so accurate. It doesn't need to be that accurate. It can stay as tough as it is. It can still be a chariot and drive around. It just doesn't need that little extra accuracy as a kick in the teeth. Cannons are already basically laser-guided missiles. I see no reason to make it even more laser-guided with a correction system. Other than that, I like most of what's in Ogres. I'd love to see like Gorgers and Yetis actually have a reason to get on the table. They're pretty garbage right now. I'd like to see them get maybe like have them be able to burrow up instead of needing to enter from a table edge. Like Gorgers maybe could burrow out of the ground. I don't know what their backstory is. I don't know Gorgers well enough because who plays them. But make them better in some way. I'd love to see people out there who play Ogres say how what their ideas would be for making those 2 units better. But they're cool models. They're cool units. Like, and they just don't get played because they're not great. They're bad. So I think that's awesome. What about O&G?
Squig hoppers, make them better.
Yes. I want to see squig hoppers just be like Monstrous Cav and like something like that. Like I think that would be a fun way to go with them. Well, keep them armorless, but make them multi-wound creatures.
Oh, okay. So you said Monstrous Cav, like 3 wide, bigger base. So I was trying to figure out where you're going with that.
Yes, like bigger base, multi-wound dudes. You know, just goblin on top of big squigs. Like, how tough is a squig? It's a ball of red. It can be as tough as you need it to be. There's like 8 different sizes of squig already in the army. So, like, who cares?
Sure. Yeah. And then obviously they just need to combine a lot of the other stuff that's floating around.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like, when we're talking about keeping and not reducing, if it follows the Ravening Hordes thing, like, obviously, in the long term, the solution for O&G is really to probably eliminate a lot of units. Like, I hate to say it, but it's to eliminate these individualistic units and crack them together into one unit, maybe with some options that makes them act like the old unit.
Yep. And animosity, it's the only racial ability that is actually like kicking you in the nuts every time it comes into play.
Sure.
Maybe do something with that. I like animosity. I like what's going on there. But maybe it needs to swing the other way and be a positive benefit sometimes. Like frenzy.
Well, it is on a 6. Let me say that.
How often is that happening?
1 in 36 times you roll animosity.
Exactly.
Or 1 in 36 times you test for a unit, I should say.
Yeah. Like let it frenzy a unit.
Okay. Which also has good and bad sides to it.
Yeah.
So it's fairly orgy.
Yeah.
All right. I accept. Skaven. What about Skaven? I'll give you a couple. Warlock Engineers probably need to be more than 15 points. Like, getting an actual hero for 15 points is pretty stupid. I don't care that he's craptacular. Like, whatever, so what? Give him, like, lots of armies have craptacular stat casters. If you make him more, maybe he's a level 1 automatically or not. That would be terrible. I don't want them to be level 1s automatically. But he probably needs to be a little more than 15 points.
Yes.
Stats can adjust accordingly.
Yep.
I would love to see the Plague Claw Catapult actually do something. That would be nice. To have a purpose on the table.
The multi wounding of the Doom Wheel and the Warp Lightning Cannon, something needs to change.
I don't see any problem with any of that.
I know you don't. You're also on the other side of the table.
That's right. Yes, I am. I back that. Doom Wheel needs to stay exactly as it is. I don't want to go back to the dark times of crappy Doom Wheel. I like having that be a good model.
No, they just needs to be balanced. So either, I mean, if you're going to keep the multi-wounding thing, the cost needs to go up. Or it needs to spin out of control easier.
It goes out of control pretty easy. It's easy to break. I like it. All right, we can fight about the Doom Wheel later. But I stand behind the wheel.
I would
play a game with it, and you'll find out just how sensitive and hard to use that thing is.
I'm sure, but ask anyone that's not a Skaven player what they think about.
That's not who should necessarily get to decide every time. Otherwise, none of us would have pretty toys. I guarantee you I'd stomp that Phoenix right out of existence if I get to decide what's in your army. Yes, everybody has some things that are pretty good. And that's what I want. I want everybody to have fun toys.
Sure. Maybe Skaven morale doesn't need to go up to 10 for leadership. Maybe it needs to be capped at like 8 or 7.
I mean, again, it's very unit dependent. They can lose that from just being charged in the flank. Like, it's very player dependent. If you know how to fight Skaven, you can defeat Skaven. Like, sure. You know, like I wouldn't mind seeing like if we're going to talk about like power reduction things for them. You know, it's hard because a lot of their things are just so random. I would be fine if we changed around how D13 worked. Like, I don't think D13 has to work how it does now for Skaven to win. Like, I would like the idea that there is a spell called Dreaded 13th. That should still exist. It's a cool concept, right? It can just work in a more, in some kind of fashion that's more amenable to everybody. It doesn't need to just be like roll 46 and vape a unit. I think that would be especially bad if unit sizes did get smaller, right? So that would happen.
And what I would say with that is I think that all of the like Uber spells, all the remove models or stat checker spells need to heed ward saves.
I'm fine with that as long as ward saves get rarer.
Okay.
Too many things are getting ward saves, and I don't like them. I like things to die. Says the guy who plays like 2 armies that have like ward saves across the board. But whatever. I'm okay with like ward saves being like super capped at like 5 up as well, by the way, of like just no more 4 and 3 up ward saves or anything like that. That'd be fine. But I would love to see Rat Ogres actually be worth anything because they're great models. I would love to see the Plague Sensor Bearers be worth something again because they're amazing models. The entire special section of the Skaven Bar Gutter Runners is literally a pile of garbage that no one ever takes because it's so utterly horrible. And I would love to see that not be the case through any of a million methods. So, by the way, I would be willing to accept losing some of my toys if all of that actually was a viable choice, right?
Sure.
So like if those get more interesting, okay, fine. You know, I'm okay with losing some other choice.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem right now. The problem right now is, as much as people bag on Skaven, there's like one Skaven army that works.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about playing them. I want to see 5 Skaven armies that work. And so if that means I got to lose a couple things to get other viable choices, I'm willing to do it just to be able to play different types of armies.
Yeah.
The Empire. Here's mine. Make the mortar better because it's garbage. Make the Hellstorm rocket battery cooler because it's garbage. And if ever you buy a mortar for once it's better, it should be the Halfling Hot Pot model. In fact, get rid of the mortar and just bring back the Halfling Hot Pot. That's what I'll say.
What I would say is I would love to see more viable, like a predominantly like, and this is just the feel of the army, and this could be done if these are more effective. Let me just say that, but like, there's just so many. Like, I love the flair and the flavor of Empire like foot troops, but you don't see like most Empire armies that end up getting fielded are very thin on infantry.
Mm-hmm.
And it strikes me as an infantry style army. And I like, obviously if it's merging with Berto Nia or whatever, you know, like whatever that's going to look like, I would love to see like great swords hit the table occasionally.
Sure. I mean, I think you can do that by I think that the weight to that's setting on the underlying rules, not on the unit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think I look at great swords, maybe they need to come down like a point or two in their cost, but like, other than that minimal change, really all it takes to make them worth it is have the underlying rules favor infantry in some way or make infantry a valuable choice, right?
Yep.
That can all happen in the underlying rules. People take 1-up Cav and 1-up Monster Cav right now because that is what wins. But if infantry is stronger in some way and Cav is weaker or Monster Cav isn't as good, then, you know,
yep,
the scales can tip even with everything queuing pretty close to how it is.
Certainly.
Demis need to be worse in some small way. I don't want to see them kicked in the teeth. But they need to be like, they should probably have like a 2 or 3-up armor save instead of because they're not, you know, like, why do they get the 1-up? Why everybody in the Empire now just like gets full plate for free? This is a thing now, you know, just like maybe we can scale back that full plate just a wee bit. Like I want to see them keep some 1-up knights around and stuff like that. It's a cool idea. I want to see characters have it. But maybe we don't give every single guy who ever straps on armor in the freaking Empire full plate. Like everybody ever that gets passed out, like, you know,
hey,
like free peppermints at a restaurant when you walk out.
Free Company doesn't have full plate.
They don't have armor. So I said, everybody who gets heavy armor, it's just like, did you join the heavy armor squad? Here's your full plate. Like, you know, have them be a little worse at armor save. And a lot of the problems there goes away with them, honestly. Yeah. And I'm not asking them to have like a 5-up. Just a 2 or 3-up would be a long way toward being fine.
Sure.
TK.
I am waiting for a good bone giant model.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Make the Necrosphinx better because that thing's a garbage thing. Let's actually make it have some kind of strength so it can actually kill anything else in the world. That would be a nice start. Here's a radical idea that might be a little risky. I wonder how everybody would feel about poison going back to the way it used to work, where poison only auto wounds on a 6-up. Like undead are immune to poison. That becomes an undead thing, unless the poison's magical. And so you have a rule just called poison, and you have a rule called magical poison.
Sure.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Wouldn't die to like Sphinx blowguns, which I have a real problem with.
How about this? Entomb Beneath the Sands doesn't kill your units.
Yeah, like almost automatically. Sure, that'd be great. Yeah, that rule isn't garbage.
Yeah, like just let them not show up to the battle.
Yeah, make it work something more closer to how the Storm Fiends burrow up with their Warp Grinder. Maybe not necessarily even that good. I don't need like the Storm Fiends one is really good. They're basically like deep striking Terminators. I don't need it to be that good. It can be just not as awful as it is now, and I'll be happy. Yeah.
Yep, agreed.
Oh my God, how is there still 3 armies? All right, let's just do it all quick. VC. All right, here we go. Break down the Vampire Lord from being an absolute monster. Bring up a lot of their core troops to be not zombies should always be terrible, but like make ghouls worth something again. They should be a compelling, fun choice.
Yeah.
Have skeletons be interesting in some way. Like maybe skeletons can take a neat weapon. Like maybe they can take a halberd or something like that. Right? Just
scythes.
Yeah, just something neat. So that they have other interesting core and don't have to rely on one lord to carry the whole battle. Right. And then on the flip side, get rid of army crumble on general death. Like that should just be a thing that goes away.
Yep.
The army should be balanceable without that rule. Like when that guy should still be really scary and really awesome. And when he dies, that's a big hit to the army already. There's no reason to kick a man when he's down.
Yep.
Warriors of Chaos. I would just love to see the end of the. I doubt we're going to get this. I think we'll get more of this. I'd love to see the end of the rugby list. Like just 12 dudes show up to the fight with warriors. I would like to see like warriors of chaos actually be useful. By that I mean chaos warriors. Yeah. So like they can track down probably 5 points.
Yeah, I want to see multiple blocks of like chosen or just chaos warriors hit the table rather than like a single block.
Yep, I don't want to go back to the old world where where a single unit of Chaos Knights could literally run the table and was unstoppable. But I'd like them to be a valid choice, and I think that happens by them getting like cheaper. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Their stat line honestly feels about right, but do they need to be like 23 points or 25 points for a Chaos Warrior and 45 or something crazy for a Chaos Knight? Like that's a bit excessive, probably. Yeah, if you make Chaos Knights cheaper, you got to make my Grail Knights cheaper. And then finally the woodies. Here's an easy one. Make the trees not suck. Give them back their old stats.
Like all the trees. Like like the dryads, everything.
And the dryads actually able to fight in the woods. When they lost their skirmisher, dryads suck in woods. Who let that get to print? That should be a problem. That somebody should have looked at dryads and been like, these guys are really terrible when you put them in woods. And nobody thought that was an issue? That they are trees that are bad in trees? That seems like a problem. So yeah, give them back their old stats. I don't know if they need to go back to skirmishers again, but like let them be steadfast in the woods if that's still a thing. You know what I mean? Just I don't care about the individual rules. Just trees should be good in woods. I think that's a simple design principle we should all be able to adhere to.
Or they're treated as having cover at all times.
Care. Whatever, something. Just make them not garbage in the woods and not garbage. I want to see the tree army come out, frankly. If we're going to just go Codex crazy in New Warhammer Fantasy, like with Skitarii and Harlequins and all that stuff for 40K, I want my tree army. I want the Arbor Host. There you go. We'll give it a unique name.
You want that Guardians of the Deepwood box actually to mean something?
Yeah, hell yeah. Absolutely. I want treemen and treekin and dryads and more, like sprites and just all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, that would be awesome. All right, and that brings us to the end.
Okay.
And we are over time.
I know. I want to do two things real quick.
Go for
it. Who do you think the big winner is going to be of the new lists?
From this Ravening Hordes thing only, not in the long term, right?
Sure.
Beastmen. They can't help but get better. Especially because they'll have the ability to take their marks in the thing. I'd lay money. Assuming that these armies look anything like they do now, and you can build them anything like, you can still build like a Beastman army. So let's just assume that, which one would think you could if all the models are still usable, which is our assumption.
Yep. I'll do the loser.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Chaos Dwarfs.
Sure.
And what I mean by that, this is a tournament army that realistically, if all of the 8th edition books are getting thrown out the window, this is an army that we are not going to have rules for when 9th edition launches.
Yep.
And so, unless suddenly they recognize Forge World stuff, which they're not going to do, anybody with Forge or with Chaos Dwarfs will likely not have them be playable for the first however long, until a book gets released that they would be in that book.
Yep. It's a good call. All right, folks. That brings us to the end of another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Thank you all. Tom, any quick final thoughts?
Yeah. So I picked up I buy and sell stuff often. And if you'll look right here, you can see something that I've picked up in the last right there.
Yeah.
In this last week, I came upon somebody that was desperate to get out of this game, and they lost their damn mind and ended up liquidating. They ended up selling me a very large lot of Warhammer things for like 10% of what the retail value would have been.
Yep.
And I'm telling you this to say this. For fans of the show, please don't lose your damn mind in this transition. We don't know what the rules are going to be. We don't know what things are going to look like. Don't hastily try to throw everything out the window and regret it later.
Yep. Exactly. Now is not the time to be selling for pennies. That's ridiculous. Keep your stuff. Enjoy your stuff. Stay positive. You don't know what it is until we have it. It's Christmas Eve. Let's all hope that what's under the tree is good. Completely agreed. And great advice, Tom. With that, we'll sign off. And as always, see you next Wednesday.